Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Prashant. How are you?
I am fine, thank you, sir. How are you, sir?
I'm also okay, Prashant. So far, so good. This week has been much better than last week. Last week I wasn't well, so I couldn't take your classes. So should we wait, Prashant?
Sir, we'll see for a few more minutes, sir.
Okay. Did your exam schedule come, Prashant?
No, sir, it is backlog exam schedule, sir. Due to rains, it is been
Okay.
postponed, no, sir, that exam schedule.
Okay. Okay. That was on. Today's newspaper says every day they are finding 900 asymptomatic cases of COVID. And the second wave has already started in other countries like in Europe, mainly in England, Germany, France, and Belgium. It is supposed to have started in some states in the United States of America, like in California. In India, I believe in the last 2 days, which is yesterday and not yesterday, day before yesterday and the day before that, 30,000 cases came up in Delhi, NCR. So they are saying that there is a good chance that we have also started a second wave, and the second wave is likely to be more powerful because it will have a lot of asymptomatic cases, and the, apparently the state government is worried that in the last 3-4 days, 1 week, not 3-4 days, they have found 900 asymptomatic cases per day consistently. So I don't know. We are
Sir, this means it means situation is not going to become normal in these days.
No, people are saying, some people say it may take a year, some people say it may take 2 years. But the main problem is that you cannot find a vaccine for this. Okay, because a virus does not, it's not like a bacterium. Okay, it does, a bacterium doesn't change its form, doesn't change its strain. So you can create a vaccination for a bacterium, okay, or against a bacterium. But a virus, in each host, it changes its strands. So by the time you have done clinical trials and developed a vaccine for one strain of the virus, it would have mutated into others. That is the reason why even today, after so many years of AIDS, we still do not have a vaccine for AIDS and HIV infections. We don't have a vaccine for Ebola, which is a horrible disease. Uh, in Ebola, internal organs simply start becoming liquid. So those are horrible diseases, and those people have not been able to find vaccines. So it's not so easy finding a vaccine. So people are saying this might last a year more, or it might last 2 years. A German epidemiologist has said that India is the biggest concern, and what he has given as reasons are first and foremost the size of the population. The second thing is the density of the population, because our land mass is not very big, say compared to a China, which also has a big population, but it also has a very big land mass. We don't have such a big land mass, so there's greater density of population, and we don't follow hygiene and sanitation properly. That is another reason. And he also has said that there is a failure of governance. For example, all the figures that you read about Telangana cases, they are all fudged. Those are not real figures. The High Court has said it in as many words. So anyway, some people have joined, so let's stop talking about the virus and move on to other things, like what we were doing yesterday. Yesterday, I had started talking to you about Michel Foucault, Michel, Michel, Foucault, Foucault. It's pronounced that way. Michel Foucault is a Frenchman, and he is somebody who falls, according to some people, into the structuralist framework of thinking. But Foucault himself denies this particular claim, and he says, I am not really a structuralist. So he was asked, then, how do you describe yourself? And he said, I'm just a historian of ideas. Okay, now there is a lot of meaning hidden in the historian of ideas. Okay, if you say historian of ideas, we probably will say, he studied a particular idea that was there and documented it, which is what we think historians do. Historians document events of the past. But that is not the kind of meaning that one should infer from Foucault's statement about himself as a historian of ideas. Uh, Before I go on to talking about the meaning of that historian of ideas, I would like you to remember that Foucault has written on a diverse range of subjects, and therefore his uh, thought, so to speak, is not something which can be unified together into one systematized whole and say, this is what Foucault is. Foucault is many things to many people. What he is will depend upon your own purpose of study. So, our purpose of study is understanding what political philosophy does through the use of language. And since we study the use of language with regard to political philosophy, we have to understand what Foucault says about uh, the history of ideas and what exactly is a historian. I told you Foucault made this particular, uh, created this model. If Heidegger, I had talked to you about Heidegger yesterday. Heidegger said, destruct, destroy. Okay, destroy the verbiage, destroy the words, and get to the meaning. But if you see what Foucault does, Foucault is slightly different. Foucault calls his method archaeology. Okay, so there are two works of his. One which is called Archaeology of Knowledge, which basically talks about all forms of knowledge. And there is a great deal of emphasis in that work on anthropology. And in anthropology, again, what was at one time called cultural anthropology, sorry, physical anthropology, but now it is being called forensic anthropology. So let me quickly tell you what is forensic anthropology. Uh, you know, in the Central American region, there was a civilization uh, at one time called the Zoque civilization, Zoque. The Zoque people had built uh, urban cities, and they had also built, along with the Mayans, they had also built pyramids like you find in Egypt. But what was very interesting about the Zoque people was that they found a bathroom, a lavatory actually, not a bathroom. They found a lavatory with feces, which was fossilized. And when they studied the feces, the fossilized feces, they found the DNA of human beings, which was different from the DNA of the person who's supposed to have passed the feces. So they came to the conclusion that perhaps cannibalism or eating of human beings was a part of the Zoque culture. That is forensic anthropology. Okay, Foucault doesn't do just this. He also does cultural anthropology, but his cultural anthropology is different from Claude Lévi-Strauss's uh, cultural anthropology. But I'm not going to go into that. We'll go into the archaeology of social sciences. Okay, in that, what we will do is that we will focus upon this idea of political philosophy, or how Foucault deals with ideas which are political, which have been written about, and what are his conclusions. Now, Foucault, I told you, believes in this whole uh, idea that, you know, as history passes and more people are um, more and more people are writing about history, if you see that, then you get the picture that there is no one account about a political philosopher. For instance, if you take uh, Thomas Hobbes, the characterization of the social contract in uh, Thomas Hobbes uh, by Michael Oakeshott, who himself is a philosopher of sorts, is that Hobbes is talking about some kind of social contract based in obligation of people to each other. C.B. Macpherson, on the other hand, says that it is not obligation towards others that makes Hobbes construct his social contract the way he does it. It is possessive individualism, and he says it is a mechanism aimed at the rational self-preservation of the individual, of myself, not my obligation to you. It's all about me, nothing about you, which is what Michael Oakeshott says, it's obligation towards others. David Gauthier, Gauthier, David Gauthier basically argues that the social contract is some kind of an understanding between nations. When we say nations, please don't take it as a nation state. Okay, today when we talk about nations, so to speak, we actually mean a nation state. Okay, nations are those which are bound culturally, they have shared cultures. So what David Gauthier argues is that this is nothing but a social contract where people who have different systems of belief or different cultures, they enter into a contract to mutually tolerate each other. Okay, that is what David Gauthier says. So there are so many different interpretations about Hobbes alone. Okay, and these are all things that have been emerging over a period of time. I have not mentioned George Sabine. George Sabine says Hobbes is illogical completely. Now, Foucault would say what Hobbes is, or what his social contract is, can be understood if we do archaeology. Yesterday, I gave you the example of physical archaeology, which is you dig up a site, okay, on the ground. I gave you the example of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. Today, when I spoke to you about the Zoque and the Mayans, that are also excavated sites. So archaeology is excavation. Okay, and if you remember, I also talked to you yesterday about Pompeii, the city which got completely hidden under the ash and the lava of Mount Vesuvius when it uh, exploded. And people actually conducted digging and they found a city there. The same thing happened with Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. People dug and found that these are urban civilizations. They had underground drainage and things like that. And they predate the Aryan civilization, which is a rural civilization. Okay, so that is archaeology. All right. So what Foucault means by his being a historian of ideas is that Foucault Foucault is making a claim that he is somebody who does an archaeology behind an idea. He picks up an idea and he tries to understand how the idea has come to attain certain meanings or a meaning. Yesterday when we were, every day we get cut off abruptly thanks to Zoom. When we got cut off, I was speaking to you about his work called Madness and Civilization. Okay. Uh, we all take madness for granted, right? We think there is a thing called madness. Some people are mad. Some people are not mad. Most people are not mad, but some people are mad. So who are these mad people? Why have we named them mad? We have never ever asked ourselves these questions. We have really never asked ourselves these questions. And there was a psychiatrist who went by the name of R.D. Laing, L-A-I-N-G, or Ronnie D. Laing. R.D. Laing wrote a book called The Schizoid Self. Schizophrenia is multiple personalities. Okay, you don't have one personality, but you have different personalities. On some days, you look calm, peaceful, you talk to people in a very nice fashion. On another day, you can become extremely violent. The tone of your voice changes. And this, according to R.D. Laing, is not really a disease. He says every one of us, though we would like to believe that, we are consistent in our behavior and that we have only one personality, that is not the case, is what he says. He says we are all schizoid. Schizoid is we haven't become schizophrenics, where that is a disorder. But when we are schizoid, we do harbor different personalities that we show to different people. Okay, the poet T.S. Eliot, uh, probably put it in a great fashion when he said in his poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, in that he says, we prepare a face to meet prepared faces, which means that we hide our real self. We prepare a face, we may be angry inside, but we smile. Those people also who are in front of you have not come with their true faces. They have come showing you a prepared face, right? So that is the kind of thing that Laing is talking about when he says that we have multiple personalities, okay? Or we have more than one personality. Let's put it that way. So what Foucault does is that he tries to understand how have people been branded as mad. When did this branding of people as mad begin? And his answer to that is that the concept of madness is a modern concept. And please remember, when we talk about modern, it is something that starts around the 16th century, roughly. 16th century CE, Common Era. It starts around that time. And he says it's a modern thing. One of the striking features of modern civilization is capitalism. Okay. In fact, capitalism made modern civilization what it was. Okay. And what does capitalism expect out of individuals? What does the modern civilization expect out of individuals? It expects them to be productive, contribute to society. Okay, you have to make a contribution to society. And by that, we are not talking about any contribution, but we are talking about specific kind of contributions. So if you, when I don't have to attend any more interviews for getting promotions. I have got the highest promotion, so those days are over. But those who have to still get promotions, or those who still need to get jobs, they have to face interviews. But I'm not talking about those who have to get jobs. I'm going to talk about those who are who are applying for promotions. People have to fill up a form in which it says, what is your contribution to corporate life in the university? How have you contributed to corporate life? Corporate life is not corporate as in a corporation, business corporation, but as a community. What have you contributed to the university community? And that's not just students. It is uh, students, colleagues, non-teaching staff, and also the bosses. The bosses, by that I mean the vice chancellor, the registrar, and all of them. So we have to fill in this form. We have to say, I did this, I did this. If you didn't do any of them, then you are seen as a non-performer. If you say, if you can show a list and say, these are all the things that I have done, then you are seen as a performer worthy of promotion. But if you are seen as a non-performer, then you're not seen as being worthy of promoting. So therefore, you will not be given a promotion, right? So this whole thing of productivity and contribution to society is something that started in the capitalist period. In the capitalist period, if somebody said, why should I work? I don't want to work. I don't believe in work. Then you will say there is something wrong with this person. You'll say there's something really wrong with this person. It doesn't matter if that person has a lot of money and doesn't need to work. But if that person makes a claim and says, I don't want to work, then you will say, why? Why don't you want to work? It is something that startles us, right? And this is where the whole idea of normal and not normal comes into being. Okay, a normal person will have ambitions. When you go and attend job interviews in the private sector with a, say, with a management degree, People will ask you things like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And you'll have to give an answer which will satisfy them that you are ambitious enough to perform something useful, to do something extremely useful, and contribute to the company, and along with the company you will grow in your designations. That is what is expected. That is what is expected. If you go and say, I see myself still doing nothing, maybe if you give me a job, I'll be doing that job 5 years down the line. People will say, no, there's something seriously wrong with this chap. He's not normal. Who doesn't want a promotion? If I say I don't want a promotion, okay, uh, somebody I know once said, I refuse 2 promotions. And I asked him, why did you refuse these promotions? He said, see, my salary, he was working in the postal department. So he said, my salary will go up by a couple of 100 rupees, but my responsibilities will go up 10 times if I accept the promotion. So it doesn't matter if I get a couple of 100 rupees less, but I don't want these extra responsibilities that are going to be given to me. So I was kind of dumbstruck by that argument. I said, how can you say this? You know, we want challenges. We want to meet challenges. And here is somebody who's saying, I don't want challenges. I'm happy where I am. Let me be. So this, I thought, and most people will think, is abnormal thinking. It's not normal thinking. So what Foucault is trying to do when he analyzes the concept of madness is that he says the concept of madness is based in the idea of a normal. First and foremost, there is an idea of what is a normal, and it is this normal that determines the idea of the normal determines whether a particular person is normal or not normal. So Foucault says, what is normal? He says in the capitalist civilization, what is normal is being productive, working. Working is a very, very important thing. Okay. If you are a psychiatric patient and for whatever reasons you're not able to work for some time, what does a psychiatrist try to do? He'll try to make you work, go back to work as soon as possible. Medication is given so that you get back to work. You become normal. You don't stand out as somebody who is abnormal. So you have to be productive. This is what Foucault says is the normal. Okay. And here I want you to remember a distinction between two forms of normal. One is called normalcy, Normalcy, normalcy. And the other one is called normality, Normality, normality. Nowadays, people don't know good English, our journalists. So if there has been a problem somewhere, people, when things become normal again, they say normality has returned. That is very, very wrong. Normality now is used only in the concept or in the domain of chemistry. Normality is the satisfactory result attained out of an experiment that is being conducted. Okay, so that is normality, if you get the expected results. But if you say things are back to normal, which is, let us say, COVID has disappeared, we are all back into classrooms, you're all sitting without masks, nothing, no social distancing, none of those things, classes are going on, that is normalcy. So Foucault is not talking about normality, he's talking about normalcy. He says people who do not fit in with this idea of normalcy or with the normal, they are considered to be mad. The famous Bengali filmmaker, Mrinal Sen, I don't know if you've heard about him, Mrinal, Mrinal Sen Sen. He made a Telugu film, which was probably inspired by some idea like this. It is the story of, it's actually called Oka Uri Katha. Okay, that is the name of the film. He made it in Telugu only. It's not a dubbed film. Okay, and it is the story of a father and a son. The son is always trying to be normal, trying to say, I have to study, I have to find myself a job, I have to get myself a wife, I should have children. But the father is saying, all this is useless. You're talking rubbish. Don't go in pursuit of all these things. Why do you want to sit and work and have all these things for various different people? Where is the necessity for these things? So he says, don't work. So the father is abnormal, the son is normal. Okay, so Foucault is saying the same thing. He says in the 18th century, there was this institution, a medical institution in Paris, which was called the L'Hôpital Général, L apostrophe HOPITAL, Hôpital. Général is GENERALE. When this is translated into English, this becomes the General Hospital. And he says in the 18th century, the L'Hôpital Général, or the General Hospital, had the maximum number of cases which were supposed to be mad. Okay, that is what he says. It had the maximum number of cases, and there was this idea of these mad people because they were not contributing to society. They were not contributing to social wealth. They were not contributing to economic growth. And when the L'Hôpital Général couldn't take any more of these people because there were so many who didn't want to do anything, when these people started filling up the hospital, then what did they do? They sent them off on ships, okay, merchant ships that were carrying cargo. Forcefully, these people were put on ships along with the cargo, and it was left to the captain of the ship to make sure that these people are made to work, or if they don't work, the captain was also said, he was told, rather not said, he was told that you can throw them overboard. These are useless people. Throw them into the sea. This particular concept is what Foucault calls stultifera navis. Stultifera. Stultifera. Navis. Navis. Navy. Navis. Navigation. So Stultifera navis was getting rid of the people from the mainland and putting them on water because they had no place on the mainland. Put them on water, put them on ships, do whatever, but don't put them on leave them on the mainland, because they are not only not contributing anything, they are consuming. So you have no right to consume if you do not produce. So he says this is how people arrive at an idea of a normal. They arrive at an idea of normal as being productive, being contributory to social growth, economic growth, and to these things. Otherwise, just put them on ships, take them around the world. Don't you do what you want with them. We don't care. Stultifera navis indicated madness. Madness was attributed to those who would not contribute to society. I think it'll cut off for once. I would tell you that this is archaeology, where he has dug out from various accounts of the L'Hôpital General to establish what madness is. I'll continue with this idea tomorrow a little bit, and then